Hi guys, this is Amanda checking in with a first video of talking over some materials that I used in wig making. Just a little disclaimer from the get-go, by no means am I a professional. This is simply a hobby, and I've tried some different things, and I've come across a couple things where there's some pros and some cons to different materials I have used. And since I had some people reach out to me and asked what I used or how I used it, I figured, you know, I'm just gonna throw a video out there and tell you all the pros and cons. So this is gonna most likely be a fairly long video, but I'll try to keep it, well, moderate in length. So I wanted to go over the things, the tools I've used over here. And then I've wanted to go over the 3 different glues that I've used. Then I wanted to show you the difference from synthetic fiber, which I have not worked with myself, but I have a wig that is a synthetic fiber. And then Suri, regular Suri alpaca versus, regular alpaca, sorry, versus Suri alpaca. So I want to just kind of go over the different things I've used or had at home, and then you can just build your own opinion on it, on what you would like to try or not, or if you have any questions, drop a comment below. I'll be happy to do a follow-up video or just answer in the comments, so you can follow along as to the best of my abilities, of course, since, like I said, you know, I'm pretty new to this as well. I've made a few wigs, and I do see the progress from one to another, how it's getting better. Also because I'm switching materials around. Okay, so I'm just gonna start real fast over here with these things to explain them, and then I will explain these with each glue, because the brushes versus the silicone brush, there's a difference and stuff like that. But scissors you will need for cutting your alpaca, etc. So this is definitely a must. I like the little one because as I trim afterwards, it's easier to handle and less likely for you to cut more than you wanted to, since it's a small scale for wigs. So I prefer a small one. This I use for when I set my cut. For the final weft, to do my part, I do the cut with my X-Acto knife, and I use these to pull my wefts through. So that is what this is for. And then of course you can use brushes with some glues, and I will get to that later. And then of course a silicone brush, which I've only used with one glue so far, but this may actually be my favorite, which I will explain down the road as well. And then I've read on and off on videos for wig making or whatnot that some people actually use wooden spoons. I personally do not like it because it's a throwaway item. I like to reuse what I can. That's why I have a silicone mat under here, which covers my work surface, and I can make my wefts on here and not actually have any throwaway of any kind. So I personally do not like this, and with some glues, which I will get to as well, with some glues this method will not work, simply because some glues will bond to itself. So if this starts to dry, it will keep bonding, and you will have more glue usage, and it will just not be as clean. Okay, so these are the things I use, and then these are the 3 different glues that I've used so far. I'm pretty sure all of you know Modge Podge, and then Fabri-Tac. Well, actually I did Modge Podge first, and then I worked with the E6000 Fabri-Fuse, and then now I work with the Fabri-Tac. And they all definitely have different pros and cons. I'm gonna go over the Modge Podge first. Modge Podge is definitely odor free, very, very easy to use, and nice to clean up. So if you were to have a spill with this stuff, it's not gonna destroy stuff as easily as the other glues I'm going to show after that. I'm gonna get one of these just to show the consistency. It is kind of runny, but it's not awful. So for thin layers, it is really easy to get through the fibers. It's easy to spread, it's easy to use. But for me, the biggest drawback is that I do not like a super strong hard cap. Simple for the reason that hard caps with age and use can crack. And considering the fiber and the work that you invest into a wig, I personally do not like when it cracks and I have to fix it, or it cracks and it becomes a throwaway wig. I just am not a fan of this. On top of it, it is water soluble. Yeah, if you have a wig and you handle your dolls a lot and you get over time a little bit of grease, you know, from the hands or whatever, you want to wash your wig, or you get something accidentally on them and you want to rinse it off, this is not the way to go. Or if you want to dye later on, or whatever you want to do that includes water, you have to be very careful. Not saying you can't do it, depending on what you do, it may work, but for me personally, I do not like Modge Podge. So for me, this one's definitely out for two very strong reasons of the hard cap that could potentially crack, and the mere fact that it dissolves with water. So this one's out for me. I've worked quite a bit with the E6000 Fabri-Fuse, and back when I inquired people about it, a lot of people mistake it for the E6000. Yes, it's a E6000, but it's a different glue. This one is specifically made for fabrics, so it is stretchy, it is washable, it is clear. I've made a lot of wigs with it. It's almost empty. That is why at the same time I ordered this, I had ordered this. And now that this is almost empty, I wanted to try this and use this up first, since I like to use things up. That being said, this will go into a different craft. So I'm not gonna use this one anymore. So I'm gonna put it out of the view. This one, a lot of people mentioned that it has a very strong odor and that it's very toxic. And for the E6000 craft glue, yes. The E6000 craft glue, which I have here as well, has a very strong odor. I would not recommend working wigs with it, and it's very tacky and thick. So for that, the E6000 craft glue I would not use. The E6000 Fabri-Fuse is fabulous. It is washable, it is clear, which I've mentioned, but the application of this glue is incredibly smooth. It is incredibly easy. It does not run. It takes a little bit longer to dry until you can make the next layer around your doll head, but it is very, very precise. So as you make your lines, it will just simply stay like that. And it gives you some time to work with as well. I use this so I don't have to clean the brushes right now, since I would like to show you things. But it is very, 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 very workable. It doesn't matter how you spread it, it will simply stay like that. And that is really, really nice working with wigs. It is not thick, even though it looks like it. It has a very smooth, it works almost like a very liquid glue, but it's not liquid. It's hard to explain, but it's very easy to push through the fibers. It is very easy to apply in thin lines. It has an amazing control of the glue. I personally really, really, really like this glue. It has a couple downsides. So one of the downsides is when you make your wig cap, depending on what you use, I used to use pantyhose, and it worked well, but because it goes on so smooth and fairly thin and it dries thin, you need like 5 layers. So you're gonna have to be working on those layers quite a few times a day until you get your cap, and the cap will be fairly thin and very flexible. That being said, this is a purely Fabri-Fuse wig, and it's no longer like that thin or flimsy once you apply the hair, but I'll get to that later. So it just needs more layers. So this will take you a little bit more time, but it's worth it because it gives you such precision and it's entirely mess-free. I did not notice an odor. It has a very, very, very mild smell. I mean, it is a glue after all, but it has by no means any kind of vapor that I've noticed or breathing issues I've noticed, or like, I am not worried using this glue personally. I know that some things you don't smell and they might still be there. And if you sit with it all day long over days, maybe put on a respirator, but it even says it has a low odor. I hardly notice any. It says permanent, washable, clear. You will get a lot out of this 4-ounce bottle. If you just want to try it out, you could even, if they offer a 2-ounce, you could even get a 2-ounce. I made quite a few wigs. I wanted to count, but I forgot. But I have at least, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I made about 8 wigs out of this, between the sizes of a mini OSD, MSD, and SD. So you get a ton out of it, and it should have at least enough glue left in here for another 1 to 2 weeks. So it will get you really, really far. So even a 2 fluid ounce bottle, you will have more than enough to test a wig or 2, or maybe even 3, depending on the size. You get a lot out of this. You do have to make your row, and you have to let it dry before you make the next one so you don't stick fiber into the row underneath. I didn't time it, but I'd come back to it about every 10 minutes and it would let me put the next row down. Wigs are a little bit of an effort. I would just carefully touch the wig, test the glue, and then move on. A big difference. I apply my fiber loose. So I process my own alpaca, and I will take a strand and I will essentially put my glue down, put it on, and brush the glue through the fiber. So I put on mine freehand. For freehand like this glue is fabulous. For wefts, this glue ain't it. Wefts do not like to stick to itself or to the wig cap with this glue. So this is, I think, the biggest point to know is you want to use the fiber free with this to attach properly and thin and tidy and mess free and whatnot. I noticed that it does not like to take pre-glued wefts. I do, however, make my end wefts on my silicone mat and let it dry and cut it to size, and I put, you can see it a little bit. I'll make a cut in here with my X-Acto knife, and I pull the wefts from the outside through here. I have plastic in there because it likes to hold on to the head and then it's hard to take off. It fits really well. I put the wefts through and I glue them in, and I put clear foil in, and I pop it back on the head of the doll and let it sit for a day, and then I'll let it peel the wig off, peel the plastic out, and I let it air dry for a day or 2 just to make sure. Better safe than sorry. But let me see, I can take the plastic out so you can, here. So you can see how I put the cut pieces in there and I glued it in. It will glue it down, but you will have on a wig cap, even if it's the same glue, you will have a hard time putting a weft onto it because it's so smooth. Not really runny, but so smooth, it just doesn't like to grab. It's not a tacky glue. Okay, so I think that covers everything for the E6000. So I'm gonna be moving on to the Fabri-Tac. I will say some comparisons, but this glue you can apply with a brush, and I've had great success. Definitely wash it out in between so it doesn't dry into the bristles. This is a very, very broken brush at this point, but this is actually what I use for the bigger ones, and you can see it's entirely clean. So while the glue isn't dry, after every weft, I would go and, you know, with soap and wash it out, make sure it stays clean, and you can reuse it. So this one will work with this. I do want to try this glue with a silicone brush, just because I really like the use of it, which I've learned with this glue, which I'll get to in a minute. I want to test these two out, but this glue is so smooth that I have a feeling the brush is going to work a little bit nicer. But I will get back to that at a later time once I test it out. I'm very undecided on which glue I want to move forward, or if I'm just gonna alternate between the two of them until I can figure it out. But I'm very torn between the two of them because they both have their pros and cons. Takes more time, no wefts, only for the inside ones like I showed you, and then this one. So when I looked up wig making a while ago, a lot of people raved about the Fabri-Tac. It is washable, it is permanent, it is stretchy, it is yeah, it had all the bells and whistles for what people said. However, a lot of people were worried about the fumes on the E6000, which I covered. It doesn't really have any. I don't smell it at all in my room. This one's a different story. Permanent fabric adhesive, and it bonds almost immediately. So this one gives you time and way more accuracy and way more work time, so you can actually take your brush and spread out the hair. If you had a clump that's too big, it will let you spread it out properly for this one. This one's a little bit different. You want to work with a lot smaller, so where this one I could use probably, I'm gonna say, like, let's just say I could use at least this much and slap it on for this one, and then take my brush and fan it out if I wanted to, like move it out and rearrange it. This will work with the E6000. This will not work with the Fabri-Tac. The Fabri-Tac, you want to put a glue line on no longer than maybe your pinky nail. As you get used to it, maybe the length of your thumbnail, but you cannot go further because it dries almost instantly. It dries very, very fast. You have probably a minute to work with that spot. So when I put on fiber, I will personally not use any more than this, or less actually, and put it on, make a new line, put it on, make a new line, put it on, because as you go through, it is so dry already. You can do weft row after row after row. This will let you do that. This is, I can't say faster, it's faster with the glue drying, but it goes on a lot thicker. So a lot thicker. But okay, I will show a comparison with the glue so you can maybe see it. I hope you can see it. But this one has vapor. It has strong vapor. I don't know if some of you, maybe from the European countries, should be very familiar with Uhu glue. I'm from Germany, so I'm familiar with it. My first language is German. If you have questions in German, I may as well answer or explain in German if it's easier for you. But Uhu is the closest craft glue I could imagine. I could slightly compare it to the E6000 regular glue, not the Fabri-Fuse, the regular craft glue. This has a fairly strong vapor. It does say it has a danger warning. So does this, but this is nowhere near to the point where you notice it. This one you will smell and you will notice, but only for less than a minute. It kind of, like, I don't know, poofs out real fast. Like, as it's dry, you smell nothing. Neither of them have a smell. Let me double check that. Let me smell a wig. It's so minor. It's brand new. I made that wig yesterday, so it's so minor. It doesn't stay, but as you use it fresh, it has a lot of vapor that you will notice. It does says eye irritant, highly flammable liquid, vapors. I don't know if I can peel that. Let me see. Yeah, it just says vapor because there's already the comma. So it does state the vapor. It does state that it's, you know, danger, read carefully. If you use this a lot, I probably personally would recommend a respirator. They do sell them on Amazon as cheap as I think $20, but some of them do not come with cartridges, so read carefully, and different cartridges are for different safety levels. I think the P100, I can double check that later because I ordered one again since we moved to South Korea for a 2-year army stay, my husband's active duty, and we didn't bring everything, which I greatly regretted not bringing my regular Dremel and my respirators. They're in storage currently, since I have a home-based business with resin for more than 8 years, which I cannot do here, but it will pick back up, and I will explain that another time, but I will actually add a shop section with doll stuff as well. Not for wigs, but for our own modeled unicorn horns and ram horns and some other things I have in mind. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. The Fabri-Tac, I would recommend a respirator. If you make one wig, I'm one of those, I'll just wing it, you know, like that one time, but you really shouldn't. I would say rather safe than sorry. Please wear a respirator. Be careful. This is very, very tacky and it dries very fast. No matter where you get this on, it will be ruined. You will not wash it out. You will not get it off. So silicone mat, potentially gloves, and a respirator I would recommend. So this is the drawback of that glue. It dries very fast, which could be a positive or a negative, but it dries fast. It has vapors, fairly strong at that, and it is very tacky. Whatever it touches, well, it's on. Or you're gonna pull like glue strings from it. It bonds wonderfully to itself to a point that when I made a weft and I cut it into pieces, I made 3 pieces or 4 pieces, and I put them in. So when I put the wefts in, I like to make one this way, one that way, one down. I haven't laid it down yet with glue underneath, but essentially, so it looks, you know, a little evened out. It's not perfect right now, but a little evened out. I like to put it in, you can't see it, like it entirely bonds into it. But I would like to put like one piece I cut this way, one piece I cut that way, one piece I cut that way, and then I glue it in just like I did here. Like I like doing that because it doesn't make a thick bulk to like keep it higher up. With this glue, that will not work. So even if it's dry to the touch and you can cut it, the moment you hold them together to pull them through, they immediately bond to each other. I didn't know that, and I took all 3. Well, I pulled one in, and then I took 2 and pulled it in, and they entirely stuck together in here. So now I had this blob of, like, you cannot peel it apart. It just bonds entirely. So I had to essentially take my little scissors, pull it in a little bit more. This is why these are a little bit shorter than I wanted them to be. So I had to like cut the hair and even it out and give it some layers. Since these turned out shorter because I had to pull them in further, and then I had to cut the whole blob out and take it out, and then I had to lay the fiber out and put glue on, smear it over, and like work it in. But it's entirely one piece. There is no bump, no nothing. Like it entirely bonds to itself like silicone. Like that is, I think, the best description I could find, is that it entirely bonds. Like whatever is in that glue, it will keep it forever. I really like that. So making wefts and attaching them with this will not be a problem whatsoever, but it's a lot thicker. So this glue applies thicker, a lot thicker than this. So your cap will be thicker. When you make your head cap, you may only need 1 to 2 layers of the Fabri-Tac, depending on what you use for your wig cap. If it's a pantyhose fabric, stretchy fabric, or a baby wipe, a thick baby wipe, or, you know, it depends on what you use. But If it's something a little bit more absorbent, you need like 1 layer and you're good to go, which is really nice. I feel between the two of them, so this is the E6000, which is softer, and but not by much though. They're fairly similar in feel, honestly, but this is a lot of layers for the wig cap where this one isn't. Yeah, but I'm gonna show you the difference. I'm gonna make some glue lines. So this one you can use a brush. If you use a brush like this, I ruined a really nice brush of mine. If you use a brush with the Fabri-Tac, it is gonna be thrown away. You cannot get the glue out, and it bonds immediately, like immediately, all the fibers together. I wish I would have kept the brush. I'll see if I kept the picture or if I threw it out. I showed it to a friend, but it bonds it to a point where it acts like a silicone brush. And there's nothing you can do to fix it. It was trash. So using these with the E6000 will work. So if you like to use wooden sticks, this will work, or brushes. I don't know about the silicone brush yet for the E6000, but this will work because you can also just wipe it off and actually reuse this, since this glue doesn't bond the same to itself immediately. So you can reuse this with this. You cannot reuse this. So every time you lay down one little bit of hair, you would have to use the other side and then throw it out after the second one. So you get about this far before this becomes trash. So these will be a big no-no with the Fabri-Tac. The silicone brush is the way to go because you can just peel it off like after a minute. Like you just wipe it off, or you use a kitchen paper towel, wipe it off, and you're good to go for the next round. So I really like this. I want to test it with other glues and let you know, but I love those. Okay, so let's get that tested. So I'm gonna do the E6000 first because it doesn't, let me see if you can see that. Okay. It doesn't dry before I put the the Fabri-Tac down. I'm gonna see if I can. I put the feet out all the way, so I can't get you lower right now without doing a lot of wiggles, but let's put the Fabri-Tac down. Okay, let me get that glue down. Here comes the Fabri-Tac. Like you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but okay, so this is the Fabri-Tac. Let's get this one. As you can see, there's like glue coming out right now because I think I did a bit too much, but okay. I'll clean that up in a minute. So this will get thick really fast. So as I apply, like right now, it's already pulling streaks. I don't think you can see that in the video, but it pulls streaks. Let's see if I just touched into the glue. Just want to see if you can see. Oh, there you go. Like it already starts drying, and I got it on my hand. This is really gooey. Like, see, it's already starting to dry. Don't do this at home, but I want to show you the consistency of that glue. It is see, it's pulling threads all the way down to the mat. It will be dry in a matter of minutes. Like I can already kind of peel and roll it. So it does come off once it's dry. You can just kind of rub it off and it peels off. But it dries very, very fast. And they're a lot thicker. I don't necessarily mind it, honestly. I will show you the wigs later in comparison to at the end of the video. There isn't a whole lot of difference, just a little bit, but it will be a little bit thicker. And then for this one just is so smooth. So I'm gonna show, like you can just spread this beautifully, and it will not dry immediately. It's not tacky whatsoever. I really like this glue. Obviously I should have worn gloves, but I didn't. So it comes off. It feels a little, yeah, it rolls off too. It hardly has a smell, but my brush will not be broken, and you can still see how this is still entirely spreadable. It takes a lot longer to dry. I'm gonna pop that in water. This one is kind of done already. See that? Like it already is, that glue is done already. So you would not be able to push your fibers in well right now anymore because it's already thick. So for fine hair to work it in, you have to be fast. You have to put your line down, and you can just wipe this off of the brush. And your brush is clean. So that's a big bonus to these. There is no throwaway, or at least not quickly. So this one's still, let's see, this one's still entirely liquid and still workable, which also therefore gives you the time to rearrange hair or take something out if you really wanted to. This one's done. It's entirely like starting to roll up. Yeah, there, it's coming off. So that's like the biggest difference that I needed to get used to a little bit yesterday. Yesterday was the first time I've used the Fabri-Tac. There you go. This is the Fabri-Tac. So now if you use Fabri-Tac on Fabri-Tac, it will immediately, even if it's this dry, even if it's drier than this, I had wefts dry for 2 hours yesterday, it bonds immediately if you apply some of this. Like it will immediately bond. I'm gonna roll it off. I like both glues. I cannot tell you which one I like better. I think I have to make more wigs to determine that. I really like the E6000. I'm a big fan of it. But this one, for the bonding properties and how fast it dries, it's lovely. So it's really hard to say. I think they both have their pros and cons. It depends on what you're trying to go for. Depends on what you're looking for. I will show you the wigs in a minute, but I could not choose a favorite between the two of them. So, okay, so now I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna wipe this up first because I don't want to get glue on my wigs. So this one's still almost entirely, except for the very thin spread, liquid. So let's see, there we go. Okay, I just don't want to get the glue in the hair. Brush is clean. I'll pop that back in here. So now to the differences. So this is the fiber difference. I want to show you the fiber difference. I don't know if it will be well visible, but I shall try. So this is a synthetic wig, obviously purchased. I got that secondhand. I want to raise you up so I can show it to you on a doll. So this might be a little bumpy for a second. So, okay. So I can no longer see the screen. I hope I can do it right, or well, I'll stand up and do it. Okay, so I'm gonna show you my hybrid. There's gonna be doll nudity moving forward from here. If you don't like it, don't watch any further, please. This is my hybrid. I have a little bit of tack-it on there to hold the wig better, but it's not gonna be needed. So for the synthetic wigs, all the synthetic wigs I owned, all but two have now left my house. I'm personally not the biggest fan because it's very stiff. It doesn't act very natural, in my opinion. It's also fairly thick, so for me, she needs a dye job, obviously, but for me, the hair looks too thick in comparison to her face and body. Like to me, it just doesn't look quite natural. It doesn't fall natural. It's kind of stiff. I don't know if that is fixable. I most likely will let this wig go too. I just kept it because it fits two of my dolls and I haven't made all the wigs yet. But for me, synthetic wigs aren't really my favorite. But I still have that from when I started more into the hobby and bought some secondhand things. And then we have the regular alpaca. So when I bought alpaca for the first time to make wigs, I bought regular alpaca, which is nice. It already falls nicer. I can't show it on her because it doesn't fit her. It's too big. It already falls nicer. It has a more flow to it. The fiber thickness, I don't know if it'll be visible. The fiber thickness, or thinness, is that a word? I don't know. But the thickness of the fiber is a lot more fitting to her body size. So on us, it would look incredibly thin for like Suri alpaca. But for her, it looks pretty good size-wise. Like I like alpaca, but I am moving away from the alpaca as well, and I entirely will move towards Suri alpaca only because it has a lot more flow. It falls nicer. It's thinner. It's definitely thinner. I don't know if that is gonna be, can you see the white versus, so this is alpaca, this is Suri alpaca. So you can see how the fiber is a lot more smooth. It looks incredibly realistic, honestly. That looks like actual hair on a doll. It falls naturally, it looks natural. It is incredibly soft and really easy to work with. A pain to brush if it gets any longer than this, but it works really well. Also, I am not worried with the glues I've used for fiber to come out, which is another benefit. There's not going to be any breakage because it's entirely fused and bonded into the cap. So I can use these and just brush the hell out of them if I wanted to. What else could I think of? Oh, I wanted to show if this is visible. So this is regular alpaca. So you can see how, I mean, it moves, you know, but it's definitely, I don't know what the word is. It doesn't fall as nicely. This is Suri alpaca, and you can see how it just falls over the finger, where if I do it with this, it kind of stands up, you know, like it's not, it just doesn't fall as naturally. But this is Suri alpaca versus regular. Let's see if I can get this to show. It doesn't show as well as the white one, but it's a lot softer, a lot finer. And then here is the synthetic. Synthetic is a lot thicker than the alpaca and Suri alpaca. So it's like thick, thinner, thinnest. It's hard to see on the video probably, but I figured I'd show it. So once you have your doll, I'm gonna put the tacket on. Hold the wig better. Pop her wig on. It looks more natural. I have to kind of hold her like this. Yeah, that works. It just, yeah, it looks nice. So out of the fibers, I'd go with Suri alpaca. If you make the wigs and you already go through the headache of investing as much time, I'd opt for that and clean yourself, and then it's fairly affordable. I find it pretty affordable depending on, you know, order within your country and see if there's sales, but overall I find this to be very affordable. And then another thing I do was the head caps. So this one was made with pantyhose, I believe it's called. So the thin, stretchy, fabric-y kind of thing. And then on this one, I've used a baby wipe, a thicker wet wipe. I love the thicker wet wipe. It is less stretchy, it absorbs. So I want to try the wet wipe method with the E6000. I haven't done that yet, but I could imagine that a wet wipe with a thick layer of E6000 will do your cap way, way faster. It is less stretchy, so it holds the form better. Overall, having only done 2 wigs with this method now, and many others with the pantyhose, I love the wet wipes. I would only do 1 if it's a thicker one. It's a very thin wet wipe, I would probably do 2. But if it's a thick one like we had in the house, I would use 1 wet wipe. It will be more than enough because you also apply all the fiber with the glue and it'll add up. So it should be fine. Even if you have a very squishy head cap, which you will have with the E6000 most likely. It's very squishy and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what did I do? No, you're fine. You add the fiber and it'll be fine. I prefer this. I did add a little weft under here. I made a little mistake right there so you can see the glue a little bit. But like I said, I'm no professional at this, fairly new to it. What else? I did keep, it's gonna look funny. I already showed it on my Instagram, but I do keep the sock, the foot part. I keep these, I have 2 or 3 of them, because when you put your final wefts in and you apply your glue under it to lay them so they stay like that a little bit, then I pop this over, because what it does is it holds it in place. It holds the fiber down, so it kind of like molds it more to the head a little bit, because sometimes they look a little exploded after cutting. And it will let it breathe, which means it will let the glue dry. So this is a good way to let the glue dry. Let me get that down. She's still a little bit of work in progress, but here's her wig. And see, I laid this down and now you can see the sock held it down and let the glue dry, and it laid everything down very flat, which I wanted it to be like a little pixie cut. This is a Pandori Passion. So, I love her. But yeah, her wig is pretty much almost completed. I have a couple little things that I still need to cut a couple little pieces out, which by the way, I essentially grab it with my left hand like this and I cut downward and it kind of slides through, and then it gives you a nice, as you do it, it will kind of like layer it down pretty nicely. I still have to work a little bit on her, don't flop around, but it's getting there. I still have to cut the top because the top is longer that I put in for the wefts. But yeah, this is what I've got to say, guys, about the glues. It's plenty to say. We're at 42 minutes. I'm sorry this is such a long video, but I hope it answered all the questions. And if it didn't, drop a message, drop a comment below or send me a message. I could do a follow-up video, or I could just answer your comments below, or both. Just let me know if it was helpful or not. And I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching, and talk to you soon. Bye.